Hello, hello. This is a reading for the best of us, Aries. Now today I'm working with the traditional Rider-Waite deck. We're going to do a nice little spread for you, but I've also incorporated an I Ching hexagram for you. So I actually cast that just before I started shuffling the cards today using the coin toss method and kind of building up the hexagram line by line. And you actually got an interesting hexagram. So if you see here, this first bottom trigram, these three lines right here are representative of the mountain trigram. And then these three unbroken lines here, the yang lines, are heaven. So two yin lines topped by a yang line, and then three yang lines. Heaven over mountain. And that's hexagram number 33. It's kind of funny because as I was casting it, before I even cast that last line, I was connecting with heaven over mountain, and I was getting this image of like, I guess like a sage or a yogi kind of sitting up on a mountain under a starry night sky that's completely clear and just meditating and connecting with that cosmic celestial energy, which is very much what this hexagram is actually I wanted to say symbolic of. I guess that works. And it's actually called withdraw or dune in the I Ching Book of Changes. So it's about kind of like withdrawing from outer circumstances, maybe being faced with some kind of obstacle, some kind of adversity that you're pulling away from, and instead of engaging with the outer world, you're resetting, you're recalibrating with yourself. You know, mountain is associated with the earth element, the Chinese earth element. So it's about introspection, kind of refining, and even like alchemizing your inner landscape, kind of cultivating your energy and your resources in that way. And actually one of the visuals that was kind of being presented to me as I was connecting with this hexagram was of the Bene Gesserits in Dune. I always reference this book just because it's one of my favorites, but there's a particular practice that the Bene Gesserits utilize, and it's called the Pranabindu, and essentially it allows them to cultivate such a refined awareness, which is associated with heaven, the heaven trigram. Metal element is all about like clear, precise, rational thought and perception. But anyway, the Bene Gesserits cultivate this awareness that allows them to literally change the molecular structure of individual cells in their body. They can transmute poisons in their body into something that is benign, just with the power of their consciousness and attention. And so I think it's kind of interesting that that was the energy that was very much being presented with this hexagram. Also kind of like hermit energy, so I'm interested to see once we get the cards laid out if the hermit's gonna make an appearance, because this hexagram very much conveys that sort of withdrawal and reconnection with spirit, with the cosmos, in a way. I'm going to read a little bit from Benabel Wen's I Ching book. I'm not going to read line by line. I will focus on this sixth line because you do have your transforming line on your sixth line today. Just a little bit of text that's associated with that line, just to see if that connects with where you're at right now. All right, so for hexagram number 33, dune, withdraw, dune, heaven over mountain. All right, so it says, retreat does not mean surrender. This is a strategic withdrawal into safety and seclusion while you plan your next move. When the opponent is on the offensive and you have neither the power nor support to prevail, recede and move away. Eventually the opponent will come to a rest, and that is when you strike. Return to the oracle to affirm when the timing is right. Now is a time for self-reflection, prayer to heaven, and personal growth. Beneath heaven, there is mountain, absconding into the darkness. The sage maintains distance from those who are inferior. There is no need for enmity, but you must remain solemn and stern. Better to retreat for now. There is a small gain to be had if you withdraw from the endeavor. All right, and so I'm going to read the transforming line for you, which is line 6. I also invite you to, do your own reading on this hexagram line by line, because it'll probably be relevant. I just don't want to have to go through the time to do that, since I want to be able to incorporate the tarot into this reading. But line 6 for hexagram 33. Portly with abundance, retreating, no adverse effects. Past fruits of labor are abandoned in favor of soul searching. This is the withdrawal from the material world, feeling indifferent towards superficial riches. The 6th line is the position of seeking higher meaning from life. There is an image here of one who is rotund from having enjoyed the good life. We're getting a vision of the torso of that tail from the 1st line. There's a hint of a piglet or a fat little kitten. With heaven over mountain, this might be in the form of spiritual retreat or becoming a recluse, hermit. The 6th line prognosticates a dramatic change in lifestyle from a more mundane purpose to serving a higher purpose. So maybe kind of like withdrawing from a more materially minded paradigm of reality for you, where you're very focused on the material fruits of your efforts and trying to see it from a larger perspective, from a spiritual perspective. Finding the meaning and the purpose behind the outer movements by withdrawing and connecting with the inner movements. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. With that, we are going to move on to your tarot cards. And I feel like they've been shuffled enough, but I do want to break them. Here, you go there, and you go there. One more shuffle. Okay. All right, so our first card is the 7 of Pentacles. This is the energy of sort of awaiting or pulling back, waiting for the fruits of your efforts, waiting for them to show themselves in a way. Like maybe having put a lot of effort or work into a specific project or relationship, and just kind of standing back and waiting to see how it's all going to play out now that you've done your part, kind of like waiting for maybe somebody to meet you halfway, or waiting for your boss to get back to you for a report that you've submitted or something like that, just kind of along those lines. I'll get more into these cards, but I do want to get them all out on the table. You have the 5 of Cups as your next card, and this is representing your first obstacle, something that's kind of contrary to where your energy is going, and presenting a little bit of a challenge for you. And the 5 of Cups is really kind of associated with the energy of focusing on loss, focusing on lack, focusing on things that are not going well, as opposed to appreciating what's already there. Oftentimes I see this card as kind of a catalyst in the sense that if something difficult or challenging happens in your outer reality, and it brings up difficult feelings, it's kind of like an invitation to really sit back and for one, obviously, like, appreciate what you have, but also reconnect with a higher purpose, higher things that are more significant, things that have more importance. Because it could be like in the case, since it's kind of associating with the 7 of Coins right here, I'm almost wondering if it's like somebody put all this work and all this effort into something only to have it fall apart or fail in the end. And so now it's kind of like a period of recalibrating, of trying to figure out what to do next, where to go from here now that you have nothing, or now that you have experienced failure in a sense. But I don't think it's failure. It's just life. Life is like continuous periods of ups and downs. There's no stability outside of ourselves. That stability needs to be found within, which is kind of like the invitation of this hexagram right here, mountain over heaven, like withdrawing, retreating from outer reality to find your own security and stability in yourself, and connecting with spirit and higher purpose and clear discernment, clear rational thought that is in alignment with your deepest and highest purpose. Next card is the Emperor. So you're showing up for your own reading today, Aries. This is going to be your foundation card right here. This is telling me that you're kind of in a state of alignment with your truest nature, and it's kind of motivating and compelling your decision making. I feel like you're able to really direct your will appropriately, despite the fact that you've kind of put your efforts, or you put all your eggs in one basket, and now all the eggs are broken, sort of thing, with this 7 of Coins and 5 of Cups situation right here. I feel like you have enough energy, maybe not resources, in the sense of like material things. If there was like I'm almost hearing like material cataclysm in a way. The resources are more like inner, like you have energy, you have drive, you have passion, you have purpose, or at least you're endeavoring to connect with those aspects of yourself. And by drawing from that, you're going to be able to propel yourself forward. I'm hearing by will alone. There's another Dune reference that I can't quite connect with, but it's very relevant. I'll see if it comes up later. Next card is Judgment, and this is crowning your reading today. Hopefully we can get that to focus. Yeah. Interesting. It's being very literal. Usually I get like some abstract impressions with this, but it's like very much like Judgment Day. Like this is kind of what's acting as the fulcrum for everything that's unfolding in your life right now, both outwardly and inwardly. Kind of like you've been presented with an ultimatum. Like this is the decision point now. All the work that you've done up to this point is done, it's set in stone, and now you're having to deal with maybe the consequences of what you've set in motion, but I feel like maybe these are circumstances that have kind of imposed themselves over your experience, outside of your control, and now it's kind of calling you to make a decision, to determine what you're going to do from here on out. Like it feels like very much final, like you have to move. You have to make a decision in order to move forward. And with this, I'm being called to think back on this hexagram here, where the energy here was very much like you're faced with adversity, and so you withdraw and you go within and you cultivate the inner resources and you reconnect with spirit, you entreaty the divine in a way. And it could be that whatever this judgment circumstance was, whatever this 5 of Cups energy was, it really is like an invitation to reconnect with spirit. Because there was something that was maybe out of alignment, and it usually takes somebody throwing a wrench in the wheel to get us to stop and get out and realize that maybe there was already an axle broken in the wheel, or something. You were going down the wrong way and you wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't stopped to get out and look at the wheel, something like that. It's like a course correction, or at the very least an opportunity to change the course in a new direction, cultivate a different path, maybe one that's more not necessarily valid, more truthful, more virtuous. There's another V word that maybe will come to mind. We'll see. All right, so you have the 6 of Swords, and this is in the past position. This is like moving on from circumstances that weren't serving you in a way, or I'm hearing like yielded all that they could to you. Like you've harvested what you could from a particular situation, and it's the end of that, and now moving on. I like the progression of the 6 to the 7 here, with the 7 of coins and the 6 of swords behind it. It's like in kind of setting off in a new direction and setting off in a new path, starting a new life in a way, and then kind of having put everything in motion, put all the applications out for a particular job or something, or put in the offers on the house sort of thing, and now just waiting to hear back, waiting to see what's going to come next. But very much like this kind of waiting energy, like what's done is done. What you've been able to set in motion, you have been, and now you're being invited to rest and recuperate and recover your strength and gather your wits. I feel like that's a very key phrase for this reading today, is gather your wits. All right, so your next card, you have another 7 of wands. And this is kind of representing your near future, maybe being met with competition, opposition. I like to see this card as kind of representing debating energy, like kind of exercising your own opinion and understanding of things against, those that differ in a way, kind of using your inner warrior to kind of defend your position, to defend your understanding of things. Could be that somebody comes in to question, like, why did you do this in a particular way? Like, why did you do it like this? Why are you here? What happened to bring you to this entirely new career field, or like what prompted you to pick up and move, across the country or across the globe sort of thing? Like somebody coming in to question the motivations behind the movements that you're making, the choices that you're making, and having to kind of recall everything that's happened and present it in a way that kind of justifies what you've done and why you've done it. Hopefully that's relevant. Our next card, we have the King of Pentacles. And that's in the position of your immediate environment. So this card to me is like being able to glean and kind of milk from your environment, a sense of enjoyment, a sense of stability, a sense of security, but being really rooted and fixed and very driven to maintain that. Like having acquired a certain degree of material success or stability, financial security even, and being very motivated to ensure that remains the case, that remains stable, that remains a part of your reality moving forward, and is able to kind of withstand the onslaught of opposition, adversity, circumstances that challenge that stability and security and enjoyment. This King of Pentacles, interestingly enough, is reminding me of this mountain right here, like that earthy, stable, introverted, almost like fertile energy, like having the resources, the inner resources, and maybe the outer resources, to kind of direct and create a physical reality that is more in alignment with whatever this King of Pentacles has in mind. Hold on, there's something else that's coming in. There's almost this sense of like, so it's like it's calling back to this mountain, this kind of withdrawal, meditative, introspective energy. He's the King of Pentacles, very reserved in his approach, very slow to move, very methodical, takes a while to arrive at a decision, because every factor needs to be weighed out appropriately, but there's a very slow and deliberate approach to arriving at these conclusions. And it's like that's the energy that's being supported by your environment right now, by the circumstances and the people around you. It's like everything is inviting you to embody that slow, deliberate, and methodical approach for some reason. Which I guess can be kind of challenging for Aries, because Aries likes to quick and act on the fly, and be quick and act on the fly, and kind of arrive at decisions almost impulsively. But I feel like right now the energy is very much like it's I heard it's cord. I think that's interesting. Like it's very much pulled in on itself and is dense and slow. I'm hearing like lead weighted. Like every decision that you make can potentially move such large pieces that you have to really be careful about how you're coming to the choice or to the decision that you're deliberating over. And maybe that's kind of something that the Seven of Wands energy is representing, is like weighing out the different consequences or the different, how your decisions will affect not only the people around you, but also the ducks that you have in your row. Like you have your ducks in a row, and any decision you make can knock them out of place. It's like you move one piece and three fall off the board kind of energy. So you're trying to make sure that you move the right piece in such a right way to minimize your losses and maximize your progress. Very interesting. Next card, we have the Fool. And this is representing the people around you. You know, representing a very pliant and open attitude. Since you're kind of operating from this Emperor standpoint right here, and really kind of taking upon yourself a leadership role, and clearly your decisions are impacting things on a large field. Potentially your choices are impacting the lives of other people. And they're very acquiescent to your will, very open to what you decide, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's kind of like they're just going to go with whatever you say, which can be a little annoying, but it's also like a challenge to you to make sure that you make the best decision, not only for yourself, but for these other people. I'm hearing dependents, because there are dependents on the choices that you make. Kind of dictates their own lives and how they manifest. Interesting. Yeah, so it's like the people around you are embodying very much like a mentality of going with the flow and just accepting what comes. It can be that there's a lesson in that attitude, not only to kind of mirror that perspective back to you, because I feel like that's more in alignment with the natural Aries inclination, is just to kind of be open to whatever life has to present you with, and just accepting things moment by moment, rather than embodying this very King of Pentacles, aware of history, aware of the past, and cognizant of how your decisions ripple out into the future. The Fool is like the antithesis of that, is just like, well, I'm just going to do this, and whatever happens, but I'm just going to enjoy the experience as it unfolds and be open to learning something new, be open to experiencing something new. But it's like, instead of you being in that position, Aries, the people around you are in that position. you're instead in this position right here. You're calling the shots. You're moving the big pieces. You are the king, the queen, the bishop, the knight, the castle, the pawns. Well, they're the pawns in this case. You're all the major pieces. You have control over those pieces, and the pawns just kind of move where you direct them. Interesting kind of like hierarchical energy that's being presented with these cards. All right, so for your hopes and fears, we have the Magician card right here. And again, I'm being called back to that Bene Gesserit allegory that I was using. Refining and clearing out your perception in order to finish the game in as few moves as possible and with as little losses as possible. Like there's a chessboard. Like you're running the chessboard. And I almost feel like you're playing against yourself. So right now it's sort of like ensuring that you harness your full rational capabilities, your full capacity to manifest, by kind of braiding and being in alignment with all the different elemental aspects of your reality, the spiritual and emotional for water, your physical, material for earth, your intellectual, clear, rational capacity for thought and logic with air, and then fire, like your drive, your purpose, braiding all these different elements together into one unified one unified theory. Interesting. But like one unified string of choice. And making sure, the magician doesn't come to this power and this capability just, by being born into it. Like I was born with it. Like I didn't have to work for this at all. No, it's like you had to withdraw, reconnect with yourself, your highest self, heaven, and cultivating discernment, cultivating patience, cultivating interesting, like cultivating challenge. I don't think that's quite what's coming through. Like cultivating an inner strength where you're able to stand up in the face of opposition or adversity and defending your position, defending your thoughts, defending your choices, your methods. But you have to work at that. You have to cultivate it. And given that this is in your hopes and fears, I feel like part of what you're afraid of is dropping the ball. Like maybe reverting to a weaker mindset. I don't know if weak is the right word, but for Aries, it very well could be. Being afraid that instead of being the director of your life, that what will actually take over is your impulsive self and kind of wreak havoc, bull in the china shop, like wreak havoc on everything that you've worked for. But I feel like you haven't made it this far just to give in to impulse. Aries has very much been on a journey of reconnecting with their dignity, reconnecting with their power in a way that's channeled and precise and careful, powerful, but not ruled by impulse. A higher octave Aries is driven and piercing, enduring, is able to start things and finish them, see them through to completion, and not half-ass things. You know, Aries has a lot of vital energy afforded to them. And if they can direct it and conserve it, with that kind of withdrawing energy, like pulling back in instead of, expending and wasting and, going in every which direction that impulse or desire leads you, being very focused and directed. I'm looking at the scroll that he's got in his hand here, and I'm thinking of like a magic wand. I have one, but anyway, like using it as a tool for focusing and directing your energy in like a current. I'm thinking about this copper bracelet here too, like aligning your purposes with a specific circuitry and following that path through and not being, split off into too many directions. A lot of roundabout ways to say the same thing. Hopefully you're still following. All right, and then for your final outcome card, we have the Knight of Wands. I like this. This is like Aries, driven, focused, with purpose, with discernment, with patience. If we're going to draw from this King of Pentacles energy, this very slow, methodical, considerate energy, and then harnessing that and pushing it into movement with this Knight of Wands, this is like having come out of this state of withdrawal. You did have your changing line at the top right here. So it's like once you come to this state of spiritual discernment, of clear thought, of reconnection with self and awareness of your innate capabilities and inner resources, and direct them into something, it's like the line breaks open. It turns into a yin line, and the universe becomes receptive and yielding to your impositions, to your movements, because you are directed, you are focused, and you are channeling that energy with intention. You have found your why again. And I feel like this was very much like coming to terms with the how, the what, the who. And then the Knight of Wands has the why, the purpose, the drive, the will, the desire. And by bringing those things together and embodying this magician energy, manifesting, I'm hearing like a perfect reality, manifesting the reality that you've been moving towards this entire time. No longer being distracted by little social trails going off every which direction, but looking from a bird's eye perspective and seeing the destination and going towards it. I'm feeling compelled to call back to the story of the Buddha and how when he's meditating under the banyan tree, he's being confronted with all these different illusions and temptations, but because he's so needlepoint focused on consciousness, essentially, on himself, his self, the self, these ripples in the water don't mean anything and don't affect him at all in any substantial way, because he's focused on the truth, he's focused on the purpose, on the why, on the root of all. So maybe that's kind of like an invitation for you to contemplate that. All right. I think that's all I've got for you today, Aries. Wishing you the best. Hopefully this reading was helpful, helpful to you in some way. Let me know if it resonated. Let me know any of your personal experiences and if there's any overlap with what the tarot's mirrored back to you today. I like reading your comments and your stories. So, yeah. Wishing you the best, Aries. Keep this up.